Hello and welcome everyone to today's cloud coaching session on leveraging OCI AI Text Extraction capabilities using Oracle integration. My name is Tara Van Cleve and I'm a marketing event manager for the developer initiative here at Oracle. We're excited to show you how to orchestrate an AI-powered text extractor flow within Oracle integration, leveraging the OCI Vision service. If you do not currently have an Oracle Cloud account, we've got a special promotion so that you can try out these services yourself. I'll drop that link in the chat in just a moment. We'll be recording today's session and you'll receive an email after the webcast concludes to access it. If you have any questions during the webcast, please ask them in the Slack channel and we'll answer them throughout the session. The link to join is bit.ly/join-devrel-slack. And once you're in, you'll land in the general channel. So from there, you can search for North America Cloud Coaching to reach our dedicated space for Q&A today. Today's webcast will be presented by Aditya Trivedi, Senior Cloud Engineer, and special thanks to Wilson Randall, Staff Cloud Engineer, who will be helping out with questions today. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Aditya.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Aditya. I am a Senior Cloud Engineer with Oracle. I have been with Oracle, it's going to be 4 years this August now. And ever since I started with Oracle, I've been focusing on application integration. So basically, Oracle Integration Cloud, Process Cloud, and Visual Builder Cloud Service, and some of which we will be looking at today. So the agenda for today is pretty straightforward. We will have a quick overview of what Oracle Integration Cloud is to set base. We'll take a look at what the OCI Vision service is. Then I have 2 slides on the use case architecture. And then we'll jump straight into the demo. And towards the end, we have a couple of slides on the Code Innovate program, which is a cool developer program that we run with our customers to build out use cases. So please feel free to ask the questions in the Slack channel, and Wilson will be there to answer those. Thank you. So let's start off with the Oracle Integration Cloud overview, right? So when you think of Oracle Integration Cloud, think of it as an umbrella of a couple of different products, right? Starting off with the first being real-time system integrations, right? So this is where you would not only connect to cloud products, but also to on-prem softwares. We have lots of adapters, which can help you connect to these different systems. And it's not only Oracle adapters, but also non-Oracle adapters. I have a slide which will explain the different adapters that we have. The second piece is the human process automation piece. This is mainly for building human processes that require approvals, right? And mostly the human process automation piece is for the hydration and dehydration flows, right? They can connect to your integrations, and integrations can kick off processes. The last piece here is the end user focused piece, right? Which includes the Visual Builder Cloud Service. This is a low code, no code tool where you can build mobile apps, web apps, front ends, and those can connect to your processes or your integrations, right? And that's why we have all these products, kind of smartly given within this overall umbrella of Oracle integration, so that you can build UIs which connect to different systems, and in cases where the UIs require approvals, you can kick off the approvals in process automation. In the end user focus, there's also another integration insight piece. Think of this as an analytical angle to the whole integration cloud umbrella of products, right? You build integrations, you build processes, and there are monitoring capabilities, but for business users, it's all, looking at JSON payloads and things like that is not exactly helping a business user understand what's going on, right? So within Integration Insight, what you can do is you can define certain milestones and tie those milestones into your processes and integrations. So when an integration completes or is executing throughout its flow, it would update the milestone, and the milestones would be basically business milestones, right? Like order received, order processed, if it's an order processing flow. And then that would give you some dashboards to kind of show to your business users so that they can have a high level view of what's going on within the Integration Cloud product. So jumping to the adapters that we have. So the adapters, the reason being why we use adapters and why adapters are better is basically, think of it that you're trying to connect to a system. What you would have to do is you'd have to go through the documentation, you would have to understand the authentication schemes, and how to invoke these APIs, and then try to, put that in your code, write some code to kind of get the tokens if it's like an OAuth flow or something like that, right? So what these adapters do, basically they encapsulate all of the complexities, right? So for example, taking the ERP Cloud adapter, you would literally just put in a URL of your instance and the username and password. And when you start to use this adapter in your flow, this would parse the catalog of APIs, give you the input and output payloads, so you don't have to actually go through the documentation to try and understand that. So in terms of the adapters, we have lots and lots of adapters: ERP connectivity, HCM, CX, lots of productivity adapters. And as you can see, it's not only Oracle adapters, there's also non-Oracle adapters. And then if you look at these RPA adapters that we have, these are for some of the legacy systems, right, which do not expose endpoints like REST, SOAP. You could use these adapters to kind of orchestrate UiPath or Automation Anywhere flows, so the robotic flows, to feed some data into those systems, pull out some data from those systems, using the licenses of UiPath and Automation Anywhere. If you don't see an adapter for the system that you're trying to connect to, we also have technology adapters. So basically REST, SOAP, FTP, and using those, you can connect to those systems. OIC, Oracle Integration Cloud, also comes with a secure file server. This is by default disabled. You can enable this. If you enable it, it gives you 500 gigabytes of storage. And there are common use cases where this would be helpful for you, because this is no additional cost. So communication with trading partners, right? Trading partners are sending you files, which your integrations are going to process. Then they could put these files on the file server, and then the OIC can pick it up and process those files. And then, the destination or the target system being the SaaS applications. So reading those files, pushing them to their SaaS systems. And then if you have a current SFTP where you're already doing all this, then it's a good lift and shift, right? Because this is at no additional cost. So let's look at some common use cases for integrations, right? The first one being real-time or schedule-based data sync between systems, right? So in scenarios where you have a couple of on-prem systems, right? eBusiness Suite is our on-prem system, and you're trying to migrate to the cloud. The migration to the cloud is not going to be one big bang jump, right? It's going to be module by module. And as you're trying to migrate to the cloud, what you can do is you can have an integration cloud kind of sit in between to sync some of the data between these systems as you're trying to use the new system and trying to sync data between these systems here. Another common use case is DB operations, so database, all the CRUD operations. You have, let's say, databases in your private subnets, and you want to expose some of that data outside to your consuming systems, right? How would you do that? So using Oracle Integration Cloud, you can connect to your database system, and then OIC will essentially expose REST SOAP endpoints, which the systems can connect to and do the CRUD operations there. And lastly, another common use case that we have is the file-based import and export. some of which we will be looking at today. So we have the demo that we have today is about reading files and doing processing of those files. But this is a very common use case as well. So you can use the OIC file server, have your third-party systems push some data, some files, CSV, XML files onto the SFTP. Oracle integration can then pick up those files, create the format that the ERP would accept, and then you can push it to the ERP so that the ERP can consume those files there. So to sum everything up, right, to sum it all together of what Oracle Integration Cloud is, it's a pure PaaS solution. So it's all Oracle managed, right? We give quarterly updates. It's even the managed file server is Oracle managed. So there's no infrastructure management on the customer's part. There is rich adapter support. So all the adapters that you see are available in, so we have 2 editions, most of them are available in, both the editions, and the upgrades and, all the maintenance of those adapters is being handled by Oracle at the back. So you don't have to worry about that. It is developer friendly. So all of the integrations that you're building is all drag and drop. We have visual mappers to map between the systems. There's DevOps support. You can export integrations, import it into another integration instance. And then we also have accelerators and recipes. And what those are basically just, starting points for building out integrations, right? So, and I'll show you this once we get into the console. And then we also have monitoring and troubleshooting capabilities, message tracking, sending out notifications if something fails, and all of that is all built into Integration Cloud. So before we jump into the Vision service, let's take a look at how you would go to the Integration Cloud and what it looks like, right? So here I'm logged into the OCI console. This is the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure console. And once I log into this, I can go under Developer Services. And under Developer Services is the application integration piece there. Once I come here, I can go into this instance that I already have created. And here we have lots of metrics based on the OIC instance. And to access the actual instance, you can click on the service console, and this would actually take you to the Oracle Integration Cloud console. Here, depending on the roles, right? I currently am an administrator, so I'm able to see all the different options here. Depending on the roles, you might see some and you might not. So here we have the 3 main pieces, right? The 4 main pieces under integration umbrella: the processes, the integrations, the visual builder, and the insight piece. And I just wanted to take a quick point you guys towards the accelerators and recipes. So it's on the front page, and if you search here, you can see that we have lots of accelerators and recipes, and the product managers, product developers are constantly adding new recipes based on customers, whatever we see is the most common use cases. And each recipe would, let's say, if you wanted to look at this, each recipe would have its own documentation and also show which kind of products it's touching. And all I would have to do is just click on this plus, and it would create all the connections, the sort of skeleton of the integration. And then it's a good starting point so that you can connect to these systems and build out your integrations. And for today's demo, we'll be going into integrations and focusing on integrations. But before we get into that, let's go back to our slides and we'll take a look at the Vision service. So the Vision service is a OCI native AI-powered service. here you have two options. One is image analysis, and the other is document AI. Within image analysis, overall, the Vision service provides pre-trained models to kind of identify, right? So let's say image classification or object detection, right? If you pass in an image of a car, the same way you're seeing this statistics here, the APIs or the Vision service would return this and kind of give you that. So this is using the pre-trained models. Similarly, for document AI, we have text recognition, document classification, and language detection. And in our demo today, this is what we're focusing on, right? The document AI. This would give you line by line, word by word text extraction. So basically OCR capabilities. And also document classification. So smartly, the pre-trained model can identify whether the document is an invoice, whether it's a receipt, so that's a really powerful AI-powered service there. So let me take you to where you can look at the OCI Vision service, right? So coming back to our OCI console, going under Analytics and AI, and under AI services is the Vision service. And the Vision service, the good thing with this is it also gives a powerful UI, right? So if you look here, we have some examples. And on the right side, you can also see, the pre-trained models output, right? So in this, we can see the overhead power lines, the roads, transmission, things like that. But for the demo piece, we're mainly focused on the document AI. And here, by default, it gives you a receipt, which you can play with. And on the right side, you can see, the request payloads and the response payloads returned from the service, so that whichever system is calling the service can try to parse the data using these JSON payloads. Okay, so coming back to our use case now, right? So the use case, so this was a customer, a telecommunications customer that came to us, which had multiple invoices and was trying to get the invoice number out of the PDF invoices and rename the files using those invoice numbers so that they could do some further processing, right? So without the Vision service, the way they were doing it like before the solution that we provided was they had Oracle Integration Cloud, they had an SFTP server, but on that server they were connecting via, they wrote some Python scripts which would take those files and kind of update, do the OCR on that file and give you the invoice number. But the business challenge here is, you would have to maintain the code, you would have to maintain the VM, and there's no central maintenance of the solution, right? There's no one piece where the developer can go and say, okay, this is where I just want to check the solution. So what we came up with is basically Oracle Integration Cloud would be the centerpiece, is kind of the orchestrator of the flow, right? The SFTP server has the invoices. So what OIC would do is fetch the list of invoices. It would call the analyze document REST API of the OCI Vision service for each file. And this Vision service, what it returns is a list of words or lines. And then using those list of words or lines, the OIC is powerful enough to, we could write some custom logic to parse the array, JSON array, and try to extract the invoice number out of it. And using that, we would rename the files back to the SFTP server. So pretty straightforward use case, what we did here. So I can jump to the demo. Let's go to our integration home. And So I'm back to the integration cloud, and I'm under integrations and under integrations. So before we start building integrations, right? What's the logical first step? It's building connections to the systems that I want to connect to, right? So here, in this case, in our example, we have two connections, right? The first is the FTP connection, and this is the connection to our file server. And as you can see, it's just the FTP host address, the port, and then literally the username and password. And once we do this, if we see a 100% here, it means that it was able to make the connection to the FTP server, and the adapter is ready to use. The second connection that we have is the Vision connection, right? And this is a REST connection into the Vision service. And to look at and to get the REST API, what we did was we went to the OCI REST API reference documentation. And here I'm using the analyze document API. And what I'm just going to do is take the URL from here and then paste that. Paste that here. So this is the base URL. And this API takes in the OCI signature. So I would have to build that. And the OCI signature is just a combination of tenancy OCID, user OCID, private key, and the fingerprint. And all of these details are available within the the cloud infrastructure console. So I use this and then I tested it and I saved it. So I have both of my connections ready and set up. And then I can just start building the integrations, right? When I click on create integration, we have a couple of different options or forms of integrations that you could create. The most common two are, one is the app-driven integration. This is what we use when we want to expose our integration as a REST SOAP endpoint, or we want this integration to be triggered by, let's say our ERP cloud instance. And then the schedule integration would be, built for bulk batch processing, which runs on, a schedule with every hour, 10 days, things like that. So in this case, we had a schedule-based integration because we want to wait, we want to run this every day. We want to wait for the invoices to trickle in. And once we have a couple of invoices, we then run it. So what I'm going to do is first I will run the integration. We'll look at the output, and then I can step into the integration and show you, how it looks like. So before I run the integration, let's look at the file, the FTP server, right? So let me connect back. And this is the directory. The invoice demo is the directory where it's going to look for the invoices. So let me actually put the invoices here. And if you look at under the processed folders, these are the old invoices that I had run. So I will delete those. And what our integration is going to do is move these invoices into the process folder and rename them to their invoice numbers. And just for reference, I just want to show you the invoice that we have. So this is the invoice. And what we are interested in is the invoice number here. So we're trying to extract this and rename the file to invoice number.pdf. Okay, so let's run the integration. So rename invoices. This is my integration, and I will submit it. And once I submit this, it will submit, and I can show you where we can monitor this, right? So I go one level up under monitoring, under integrations, and the tracking page. And this is where I can see all the integration runs, where I can filter out, to say last 1 hour, last 3 days, last 6 days, and the retention period. So while this is running, you can see the status being in progress. And you can see it succeeded. Yeah. So coming back to the SFTP server, I will refresh this, and you'll see the invoices are gone. And under processed folder, you will see that both the invoices were renamed by their invoice number .pdf. So Let's take a quick look at the integration. And the integration is basically it's a schedule-based integration. We are listing files from the SFTP server, and then we have a outer for each loop, right? So we're doing for each file that's listed from the SFTP server. We're saying read that file, and then here is where we call the API for the analyze document service. And once we call this API, what it's going to do is going to return us the list of, then a JSON array of lines or words. So we have another loop that loops over those lines or words, and then kind of searches for the invoice number. And here there's a little bit of raw logic here. So we're trying to search for the word invoice. And once we find the word invoice, we're trying to check if the next word is possibly the invoice number or not. And that's why we have a couple of switch conditions, and then the last step here is to actually rename and move the file. Yep. So that was the demo. Let me take a couple of minutes to talk about the Code Innovate program that we have, right? So the Code Innovate program is a 5 half-day online event that we run with customers. And the main idea here is to jumpstart the customer's cloud development, right? It's a hands-on introduction to cloud services. So the customers, we would work, so our engineers, we would staff our engineers to work with the customer online for these 5 half days. So basically 4 to 5 hours each day. And this leads to, rapid knowledge sharing, because the engineer is there with you working on your use cases. And there's a rapid knowledge sharing because you can ask, the questions right there and then. And the main highlight is that these are your use cases, right? We're not showing you demos. We're not showing you, standard demos or working on POCs. The main thing here is that you bring your use cases and we work on those. And we try to build a first pass prototype so that, and this would be in your systems so that you have, you can jumpstart your cloud development. And these would be any PaaS IaaS services. So it's not, this demo was for Oracle Integration Cloud, but on our team, we have expertise on all the PaaS services. So we could come in and help out with those. So the demo that I showed and the customer use case that I talked about was a result of the event. We pitched this to the customer. Customer came in and was using the legacy older Python scripts to do that, and we pitched them the idea, and this worked out for them pretty well. And then the highlight is there's no cost involved for the customer if the minimum requirements are met. Minimum requirements are pretty straightforward. We would need at least 4 developers from your end, and then the commitment for those 5 half days. So yeah, that's the Code Innovate. And once we decide on the Code Innovate, the experience that it would give you is you would bring your own use cases. So throughout those that 1 week for 5 half days, we would be working on your use cases, providing meaningful value to your business. There is rapid knowledge sharing. And then towards the end of that, the idea is that you would have a first pass prototype so that you can build on top of it. And we, from our end, would have enabled engineers on the customer's end so that they can, take the first pass prototype forward and, make it a production ready solution. So to sign up for this, you could send us an email on the codeinnovate_us_grp@oracle.com, or you can enter your emails in the Zoom chat, and we will contact you. We will reach out and we can schedule a call and go through your use cases. And even if sometimes customers come to us and they're like, I want to explore Analytics Cloud, I want to explore autonomous database. We kind of help you looking at your current systems as well to figure out some use cases. So it doesn't have to be a concrete use case per se. It can be, just a high level idea. And then our engineers can kind of help you break that down into a use case that can be achieved within that week. So it's a pretty cool event. We've got lots of success with lots of customers. So yeah, you can email us or put your emails in the Zoom chat and we will contact you. Thank you.